told your friend you're not okay.
Pop news update. If the world feels like it's moving slowly today, maybe it's because everyone is watching one figure once again move the hearts of millions. That was the atmosphere that enveloped that morning. A morning that turned into a historic moment without the need for an official announcement or a grand countdown. March 22nd, 2026, appeared like an ordinary date on the calendar, but in reality, that day was the point where longings that had been silent for so long finally found a home. From the moment the sun began to touch the surface of Incheon International Airport, the atmosphere there felt different. The armies who had waited for hours, standing in the cold air, showed no sign of giving up. Some shivered, some held back tears, and still others were busy updating their timelines, hoping their cameras would capture a moment they would cherish for years to come. They had come not simply to witness the departure, but to welcome a new, long-awaited journey. Amidst the hustle and bustle of the busy airport, a figure emerged with an aura that could not be matched by anyone else. He walked without hurry, without exaggerated gestures, yet his every step moved thousands of hearts. That figure was Taehyung, a man who, even without words, could turn the world upside down. That day, he was wearing a black jacket that read "Keep Swimming." A simple message, yet it felt like a reminder for everyone who has ever felt lost in time and circumstance. The jacket fluttered gently in the cold wind, as if whispering a story that could only be understood by those who have waited long, faithfully, and never stopped believing. Taehyung walked with an almost unbelievable calm. His eyes were soft, yet deep. There was no big smile, no dramatic gesture, just a gaze that carried so much meaning. The gaze of a man who had just returned from a long journey. A journey of time, a journey of maturity, a journey that shaped him into a different version of himself than he once was. The previous night still lingered in the air. The echoes of cheers from the concert at Gwanghwamun Square hadn't completely dissipated. It was as if the energy of those thousands of voices clung to his skin, mingling with his breath. And everyone who saw him knew, Taehyung carried something more than just fatigue. There was relief, there was gratitude, and there was a happiness too great to show openly. When fans called his name, Taehyung simply nodded slightly, waving slowly. It was a brief, gentle, almost inconspicuous gesture. But that was precisely his power. He didn't need much to make the world turn around in his direction again. Instantly, a short clip of him waving spread across the internet, and hundreds of thousands of comments appeared within minutes. A single phrase began trending across all platforms. "Have a safe flight, Tiang." But Amwai knew, his morning goodbye wasn't the same loss it once was. Something had changed. There was a renewed sense of hope. There was a belief that this journey wasn't the beginning of distance, but the beginning of something much greater. And Taehyung, he seemed to carry that with his silence. As he walked toward the departure gate, many felt as if they were watching a new chapter begin before their very eyes. His steps were light, yet also filled with meaning, as if each of his footsteps marked a transition from the past to the future, a future they had long dreamed of. His hair blew slightly in the wind, his eyes occasionally glanced at the camera, and his black jacket-clad hand adjusted his collar as if absent-mindedly. It was a simple gesture, but it sparked a sea of reactions worldwide. International fans created threads, the fanbase shared frame after frame, and every little detail became the subject of endless discussions. What made the moment even more memorable was his demeanor. He walked alongside the other members, keeping a low profile, not trying to hog the spotlight. Yet somehow, his presence became a natural center of gravity. He radiated a stable, warm, and deeply calming energy. Many saw the reflection of his 4-year journey in his eyes. From the lonely times, from the storms that came and went, from the duties that separated him from the stage, it was all painted in a look that couldn't be faked. He said nothing, but his expression spoke volumes. And that "Keep Swimming" jacket. It wasn't just fashion. It wasn't just style. It was philosophy. A swimmer who never stops. An artist who never loses his way. A man unafraid to challenge waves no matter how big. As the plane took them to New York, Many wondered what Taehyung might be thinking about. Perhaps it was about last night's spectacular concert. And even though Taehyung was no longer visible after passing through the departure gate, the energy of that morning didn't immediately dissipate. The airport still filled with the echoes of an indescribable feeling. Fans who had been holding cameras now looked at each other, as if to confirm that they were truly witnessing that moment, and that what they were feeling wasn't just an illusion created by longing. Outside the airport, the Seoul sky began to change color. The previously dim sunlight now became clearer, as if illustrating the hope that had grown with Taehyung and the members' journey to another continent. Army began to slowly disperse, but their hearts remained there, on the departure ramp that witnessed the beginning of this new chapter. Meanwhile, inside the plane, Taehyung sat by the window. The cold cabin air didn't disturb his calm. He took a deep breath, then looked out, watching the clouds slowly unfold like a dreamlike scroll. No cameras, no spotlights, no crowds. Only silence accompanied him. And for the first time since that thrilling comeback night, he could truly feel the weight of the 4-year journey. Silently, he opened his phone. His timeline was filled with messages. Photos of himself at the airport. A viral video of a small wave. A gif of him adjusting his jacket collar. And among them, thousands of expressions of love, self-care advice, and tender wishes from around the world. In his eyes, there was a glimpse of warmth, not a big smile, but a truly sincere smile, one that only appears when he feels safe. The figure beside him, one of the members, touched his arm gently. They exchanged a brief glance, but it was a knowing one. They had all been on a similar journey, silent, heavy, and full of reflection. But today, they were walking together again. Stronger, more mature, more ready to face the world. As the plane began to climb higher, the lights of Seoul faded, leaving a trace of nostalgia. Taehyung leaned his head back for a moment, trying to close his eyes. But his thoughts lingered, of New York, of the stage that awaited, of music, of the small moments he wanted to share with ARMY. Not with big words, but through gestures, gazes, and sounds born of sincerity. And out there, on the other side of the world, the atmosphere was no less frenetic. New York was like a volcano awaiting eruption. International fans crowded the airport, hotels, and even areas expected to host interviews or photo shoots. Global media outlets sent out coverage teams, preparing for the arrival of BTS 2.0. LED billboards in Times Square flashed footage of the Gwanghwamun comeback, media commentary, and silhouette shots of Taehyung in his iconic black jacket. Keep Swimming had become the unofficial slogan of the entire fandom in just a few hours. Immediate merch appeared. Threads analyzing Taehyung's style exploded. Fashion editors discussed the cut of his jacket. Even mainstream media highlighted his presence as a cultural phenomenon, not just a traveling celebrity. And most interestingly, among the crowd waiting at JFK Airport, several fans carried large banners that read, "We will keep swimming with you." The plane hadn't even landed yet, but Taehyung's presence seemed to be felt in every corner of the city. As soon as the plane touched down in New York, he opened his eyes again. The terminal lights were visible in the distance. The engine's roar slowly slowed down. The seat belts clicked. It all felt like a scene from a major movie about to enter its next act. Taehyung took a deep breath, smoothed his hair, and then looked out the window again. Beyond the glass, a world awaited him. A world he had longed for. A world ready to welcome him in the most festive way. As soon as the plane's door opened, a gust of New York air greeted him. It was a different air than Seoul, sharper, more assertive, but also full of energy. Taehyung walked slowly out. His feet landed on another continent with a confidence that was not exaggerated but very real. Cheers erupted. A spontaneous fan chant ensued. Cameras began flashing non-stop. But he remained as he was in Seoul, calm, warm, and mysterious in his own way. He waved slightly, then smiled a small smile. It was a rare smile, a precious smile, but one that made thousands of people scream even louder. And as he made his way through the crowd and into the car, something felt clear. This journey wasn't just a tour. This wasn't just a comeback. This was a new chapter in history. A chapter that began with the slow steps of a man wearing a jacket that read "Keep Swimming." A chapter filled with longing, hope, and a love that never truly died. Taehyung knew it, ARMY knew it, and the world would soon know.